If I've learned anything from selling crystals and gemstones at the farmer's market, it's that it's all about location. Same thing is true about chords and arpeggios on the guitar. So today we're going to talk about some really easy kind of intro ways into playing different things. The main example we're going to use is going to sound like this. So it's super slow, super easy, accessible to anybody. And again, just like selling crystals and gemstones at the farmer's market, you want to have your booth in the right position. You want to be next to the flowers, so the people who have to wait long for flowers would rather just pick up a nice piece of jasper or something, right? So the chord progression is super simple. It's C major, 2 times, C minor, D minor, and then end on G. Okay? So, rocking out the Ernie Ball Music Man, St. Vincent today. Let's start with just C major, okay, and why this is a different position, essentially. You know, a lot of people see a C major chord and think of this, right? The open chord C major. The bar chord C major rooted on the A string can be a little tricky or a little more difficult for certain people. Now, again, this Arpeggio Run that we're going to do is going to replace any single chord like this, which we're going to talk about. But what you have is you have the 3rd fret on the A string, which is your root note C. Then you have the 5th note on the D string, the G string, and the B string. Okay, so we have a C, a G, another C, a B, and then on top of the chord, you have a G, right? So just C, E, G. It's a triad, 3-note chord. Any way you kind of combine those 3 notes, you get a C major chord. So this is a tough thing to play, and also it really only has use when you're playing in certain positions. So what we're going to do is we're going to break those notes across the fretboard, and then it's going to have capabilities of maybe using it in a guitar solo, over a C chord. You can use it to spice up existing chords and stuff like that. But the way we're going to do it is we're going to start just playing through the chord shape. Alright, so we have the 3rd fret on the A string. Now I'll do my ring finger to get the 5th fret on the D string, and then just kind of pivot it down. Right? So, again, this is just a power chord. You may have already used something like this. But I think the next part is what's important. Alright, so we have a C, a G, another C, and then we're going to go 4 frets higher. Okay, so I'm on the 9th fret of the G string. So I'm going from 5 to 9. 2 whole steps, 4 frets, or a major 3rd. Those are 3 different ways to say the same thing. We just went 4 frets higher. That would be a major 3rd in the major scale, C, D, E, a C to an E, right? This note here, the 5th fret on the G string is a C, and then the 7th fret is an E. So C to E, 3 ways to describe it. 4 frets, 2 whole steps, or 1 major 3rd. Okay, that major 3rd is important because we're gonna slide into it. So sliding is something that is really kind of unique to a guitar as an instrument. So that's why this really helps musically. So C, G, C, E, and then we're gonna finish the chord with your middle finger on the B string 8th fret. Okay, so we finish it just where we would here with a G note from that chord voicing, but now we're breaking it up like that. All right, so again, we're kind of exploring into the fretboard. If we do that 2 times in a row, it would sound like this. I'm playing this thinking of bars of 6, like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, pause. So leaving that 6 open is kind of the space that we need to get back into playing the next chord on time. So let's talk about the next chord, right? We're gonna go C minor, okay? C major to minor. So one thing that becomes apparent once you start looking at shapes and arpeggios, playing chords 1 note at a time, like we're doing today, is the differences in the intervals, okay? Like I said, that 2 steps, 4 frets, major 3rd, that major 3rd is what makes that chord a C major, okay? As soon as we change that chord to minor, the only thing that changes is that interval, okay? So it starts out the same way, 3A, 5D, 5G, but now instead of going 2 full steps, we're gonna go a step and a half, or a minor 3rd, which is 3 frets. So now we're gonna go from 5 to 8 on the same string. But we're going to end on that G note, just like before. So that spacing is going to be the same from C to G, but we're just flattening the third, which is the difference between C major and C minor. It has a flat 3. C, G, C, E flat, back to G. Okay, so the difference, here's major, minor. Okay, so very small difference, but it makes kind of a world of difference as far as like the sound or the key you're playing in. But a chord going from major to minor, parallel minor could be named for that, isn't the most uncommon thing. You won't see it all the time, but when you do hear it, you'll recognize it because it is kind of a famous move going from major to minor. So after that, we're going to show how this is a movable shape just by going to a D minor chord, a D and F and an A, and we can do the same shape. So we start on the 5th fret of the A string now, which is our root note. This is a D. Okay, you don't even have to necessarily know where a D and F and an A note is across the fretboard, but you've learned the shape, so it gives you those notes for you. We have the root note D, it's 5th, A, another octave, another D, a minor 3rd, 3 frets higher, there's the F, and then down to an A. Again, if that stuff doesn't make any sense, like go a 5th from D, D, E, F, G, A, counting through scales and stuff. I go over all this on my Patreon, so definitely check that out if you're interested. I'll link you below. But if you got it, no worries, whatever gets you practicing, right? So, 2 bars of 6 of C major, a bar of C minor, and a bar of D minor is what we have so far. And that altogether sounds like this. C major. Again. C minor, D minor, and then what's next? G7, back to C, okay? So when we did that move from C major to C minor, we kind of threw the tonal center off a little bit. This is going to be in the key of C. One way to always get back to where you started, if you're doing like a major to minor thing, is to find where 5 notes away from the chord you're shooting for, your target chord against C, we need to know what the 5 of C is. We can just count through the musical alphabet, C, D, E, F, G, and then we turn that into a dominant 7 chord. Again, a lot of numbers being thrown around in different contexts here. Go to the 5 chord, make it dominant 7, and that will force you home to the 1 chord. So, again, if you've ever played a G7, there's tons of different ways to play it. You could just hold the 1st fret on the high E string down. You get the bottom 4 strings if you want. But we're going to kind of stick in bar chord land because we want to be able to move this, as we're going to do in a different key in just a second. So, here's the bar chord shape. You bar the 3rd fret, your ring finger's on the 5th fret of the A string, and your middle finger's on the 4th fret of the G string. And that usually leads you home to where you started, okay? But, again, part of this is to alleviate always thinking in bar chords if you don't have to. So we're just going to play through this traditionally like that. 3E, which is a G, 5A, 3D, 4G. And we get that bum, 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 bum to kind of really set up that drive home. All right, so C. Again. C minor. D minor. To a G, 1 note at a time, and then I always kind of like add a little flash at the end, just like a nice piece of rose quartz going home with you after a nice long day searching for the finest vegetables and produce in the land. Find the C on the B string, happens to be the 13th fret, and then 12th fret of the G string. Get both of those at the same time. Give them that rose quartz wiggle. Great way to end the whole exercise, right? Again, this is just a C and a G. So it's not major or minor, it's just the highlights, just the hits. All right? So let's move everything. Let's do something, let's get crazy and move the whole thing up, the whole chord progression up a minor 3rd. Just like we talked about, notes can be moved in a minor 3rd, a 3 fret interval, a step and a half. You can move entire chord progressions up or down in those same intervals, right? So if we move everything up a minor third, that just means everything goes up 3 frets higher. All right, so instead of going to C, we're gonna do the same thing. C, C sharp, D, D sharp or E flat, in E flat major, okay? Call it D sharp major too. Normal people won't give you a hard time if you call it D sharp major. Some people might. The E flat truthers out there might come for you. But they're the same people who just kind of sit at the crystal shop all day long and don't buy anything. E flat, I'll tell you. So we've got the 6th fret on the A string. Everything else is still the same thing. It's good we're doing this in E flat for the E flat truthers because nobody knows the notes in the key of E flat. So the shape does all the work for you. There's your root note, your 5th, your octave, and then the major third. Remember, 2 whole steps is going to take you from the 8th fret on the G string all the way to the octave, right? The double dot. If you're cool and have the same fancy guitar, you have these little wild symbols. And then you just go diagonal back to the B string. So 6A, 8D, 8G, 12G, 11B. Okay, so there's our E flat major. I kind of did it with my pinky there. Keeping it consistent. Then we're going to turn it to minor. See, and again, everything is the same. Once you get to the octave, minor third, straight down. Then everything goes 2 frets higher, 1 step higher. We're going to do a minor one. There's the minor third. And then okay, so that just shows how easy all this stuff is when just being able to move it, right? We started out in the commoner's C, right? And that's probably rose quartz would be the crystal that goes around this. Let's see, what would E flat be? What crystal would that be? Let me consult my crystal guide. I don't really know anything about crystals. I just thought it would be a funny way to start the video. E flat seems like tiger's eye. It signifies willpower, the warrior's spirit, and self-motivation. So the little tiger's eye for you right here. Just some rose quartz. Well, thanks for tuning in. Hope you learned a lot about crystals, arpeggios, chord voicings, the choice spot to be at the farmer's market. And if you have any questions and comments, hit me up in the comment section, Instagram, Twitter, or the website. Any crystal stories you'd like to share, let me know. And definitely check out Ernie Ball, Music Man St. Vincent. I love this guitar. It's probably my favorite guitar. I'm not even going to say what let me know what crystal you think this guitar most embodies. And I'll talk to you all soon. Thanks a lot.